as traces of African swine fever were detected in a wild boar found in the DMZ. We have the latest on the disease that is yet to be contained.
Back to the negotiation table. After 8 months, nuclear envoys from North Korea and the US will soon sit down for talks in Sweden, despite Pyongyang's recent missile launch. President Trump downplays the provocation, claiming the North is open to dialogue.
Gloomy economic data coming out of the U.S. America's services and manufacturing sectors takes a big step back, fueling concerns of a global economic slowdown.
And South Korea's 100th National Sports Festival kicks off its 6-day run, bringing in tens of thousands of athletes from across the country. NEWSCENTER begins now. Good evening and welcome to Arirang NEWSCENTER, coming to you live from Seoul. I'm Arirang.
And I'm Han-daeun. It's great to have you with us. We'll begin with growing concerns over the spread of African swine fever. South Korea is taking drastic measures to contain the virus.
The military has launched a week-long quarantine operation over the skies of the demilitarized zone, flying helicopters to spray disinfectant while ordering border guards to shoot any wild pigs they see in the area. This comes as traces of ASF were found in a dead wild boar in the DMZ for the first time on Tuesday. Our Kim Jae-hee starts us off.
For the first time on record, African swine fever has been discovered in a wild boar in South Korea. Traces of the African swine fever were found in a dead wild boar in the demilitarized zone in Yeoncheon, 1.4 kilometers away from southern limit line of the DMZ. There is a possibility the wild boar could have originated from North Korea, where an African swine fever outbreak was reported in May. Because of this, South Korea's military on Friday ordered troops at the border to shoot any wild pig crossing the demilitarized zone. Helicopters will even be used to disinfect DMZ areas starting Yeoncheon, Gyeonggi-do province for 7 days starting Friday. The ministry has ensured that they let North Korea know of this new measure. Meanwhile, a suspected new case of African swine fever has been reported on Incheon's Baekneungdo Island on Friday. South Korea's Prime Minister Lee Nak-yeon, during a meeting on Friday morning at the National Disaster and Safety Status Control Center, stressed the need for better management of the outbreak.
African swine fever has spread in Paju, Gimpo and Yeoncheon. We must look back on past handlings and check if there was adequate management of those cases.
The Agriculture Ministry also decided to extend the 48-hour standstill on transporting pigs.
To strengthen quarantine efforts near the inter-Korean border areas, the ministry has decided to extend the movement ban on pigs previously issued for Incheon, Gyeonggi-do province and Gangwon-do province by another 48 hours, starting from 3:30 a.m. Friday.
The ministry will call all pigs within a 3-kilometer radius of the infected farms in Gimpo and Paju. For the pigs outside of that radius, the government will buy the pigs off the farmers. The pigs will then be sent to slaughterhouses where they will be tested before the meat is sold. But in order to do this, farmers must register application forms for purchase to the respective cities in advance. Kim Jae-hee, Arirang News.
President Moon Jae-in, during a working lunch with the heads of major economic organizations, discussed the difficulties many exporters face amid a global economic slowdown. The presidential office said the participants discussed a wide range of issues, from Japan's trade restrictions to deregulation for businesses, during the first such meeting in 3 months. After listening to the participants, the president said he will review what was discussed and also called on the nation's parliament to swiftly pass related bills. The heads of the Korea Chamber of Commerce and Industry, the Korea Federation of SMEs, the Korea International Trade Association, and others attended the meeting. Now to the latest on North Korea's missile launch on Tuesday. Multiple sources in Washington and Seoul say the missile was launched from a sea-based platform, not a submarine. Our Defense Ministry correspondent Kim Ji-yeon tells us more.
The U.S. is downplaying the significance of North Korea's missile launch as the two countries prepare for working-level talks this weekend on the regime's denuclearization. Speaking at a briefing on Thursday, U.S. Joint Chiefs of Staff spokesperson Air Force Colonel Patrick Ryder said the North fired the missile from a sea-based platform, not a submarine, which would have been much more threatening to the United States since it'll be harder to detect in advance compared to missiles fired from land.
As we understand it, North Korea fired a short to medium-range ballistic missile some 280 miles into the Sea of Japan. And what we know is that the missile was fired from a sea-based platform in the Wonsan Bay. That's about all I can provide at this point.
North Korea stated a day after the launch that it has successfully launched a new Pukguksong-3 missile. The use of a sea-based platform or barge has been confirmed by a South Korean military source as well, pointing to a vessel located next to the launch site in the photos North Korea released of the firing. The regime's state-run newspaper Dodong Sinmun reported Friday that the test represents a grave statement to hostile forces. It called the weapon a time bomb that could be fired anywhere on the open sea, implying it was launched from a submarine. Kim Ji-yeon, Arirang News.
Britain, France, and Germany have requested a closed-door meeting of the UN Security Council to discuss North Korea's recent test firing of a ballistic missile. The countries made the request on Thursday after North Korea announced the successful launch of what it said was a new type of submarine-launched ballistic missile. The three sides asked for the meeting to take place on Friday, local time. UN Security Council resolutions ban North Korea from testing ballistic missile technology. There are growing expectations over the working-level talks between North Korea and the U.S. set to take place in Sweden, as it would be the first official talks between the two since the no-deal Hanoi summit in February. Lee Seung-jae reports.
North Korea's top nuclear negotiator Kim Myung-gil and his delegation arrived in Stockholm on Thursday, ahead of this weekend's working-level denuclearization negotiations with the U.S. They arrived at Stockholm's Arlanda airport at around 5:40 p.m. local time on a flight from Beijing. Before his arrival in Sweden, the North Korean envoy said he was optimistic the talks will go well.
North Korea and the U.S. will hold working-level talks. With the new signal from the U.S., we leave with great anticipation and optimism.
The two sides are set to have a preliminary contact on Friday before holding the working-level talks on Saturday. The U.S. Special Representative for North Korea, Stephen Biegun, will lead Washington's delegation. The two sides are expected to focus on trying to find common ground between U.S. demands for the regime's complete and verified denuclearization and the North's demand for sanctions relief and security guarantees. With North Korea's firing of a submarine-launched ballistic missile in the East Sea this week, there were concerns the test could derail the upcoming working-level talks. However, President Trump on Thursday downplayed the firing, saying the North wants to talk and the U.S. will be talking to them. All eyes are on the first round of formal negotiations between the two sides since the second North Korea-U.S. summit ended early in Hanoi in February. Focus is also on whether President Trump's previously touted new method will give the negotiations some momentum and possibly lay the groundwork for a third summit. Lee Seung-jae, Arirang News.
Typhoon Mitag left devastation in its wake as making landfall on the Korean peninsula on Tuesday. Many parts of the nation were hit hard by Mitag, leaving 11 people dead from landslides and flooding. Our Ji-young has the details.
Typhoon Meetic brought record-breaking precipitation as it passed over Korea. The Central Disaster and Safety Countermeasure Headquarters said it is maintaining its disaster alert status at its second highest level as of 5 p.m. on Friday, as recovery efforts are still underway. As of 4:30 p.m. on Friday, 11 deaths have been reported, while 4 others are missing and 11 are injured. But the numbers are expected to rise given the possibility that some people might still be trapped inside collapsed buildings. Casualties were mostly caused by flooding and landslides. Among the dead, 3 people were killed due to a landslide in the southeastern port city of Busan. Under the mud and debris, the body of a 70-year-old female was found about 26 hours later. The body of her husband and the remains of a 65-year-old female restaurant owner were also found on Thursday. A 59-year-old in Gyeongsangbuk-do province was also found dead under a home that had collapsed. Roughly 1,000 people from 600 households are taking emergency shelter, and some 3,600 private and public facilities were damaged during the typhoon. More than 48,000 homes have experienced power outages, which have been mostly restored. The government is focusing on the search for the missing victims, and other recovery efforts are also ongoing. Ji-young, Arirang News.
Turning to some economic news now, and the U.S. services sector joined manufacturing in taking a big step back last month, fueling concerns of a global economic slowdown. Kim Hye-sung reports.
The U.S. services sector, which accounts for more than 2/3 of U.S. economic activity, grew at its slowest pace in 3 years in September, adding to a recent string of weak economic data. The Institute for Supply Management's non-manufacturing index dropped 3.8 points to 52.6 last month, the lowest since August 2016. ISM said respondents are mostly concerned about tariffs, labor resources, and the direction of the economy. Although the index remains above the threshold of 50 that separates expansion from contraction, September's result undershot the median forecast of 55.1 in a survey of economists by Reuters. The data comes after ISM reported on Tuesday that U.S. manufacturing activity plunged in September to its lowest level in more than a decade. The weakening in U.S. services and manufacturing sector growth is mirroring developments in Europe. According to IHS Markit, the Eurozone Services Purchasing Managers Index fell to 51.6 last month. Germany's services PMI dropped to a 3-year low. France, the UK, and Spain all saw their services PMI fall on month in September. The Eurozone manufacturing PMI also fell to its lowest level since October 2012. The World Trade Organization had warned last month that the impact of the U.S.-China trade dispute, until now largely confined to manufacturing, may be expanding to the trade in services, which could further drag on global economic growth. The WTO expected volumes of traded goods to rise 1.2% this year last Tuesday, far lower than the 2.6% estimate it issued in April. Kim Hye-sung, Arirang News.
Japanese car sales in South Korea dropped even further last month. The Korea Automobile Importers and Distributors Association says the number of newly registered Japanese cars was down almost 60% on year. The number has been falling since Koreans started boycotting Japanese products back in July. Before the boycott, Japanese cars in Korea had grown every year since 2014. The total number of newly registered foreign cars was up 17.3% on year, mainly due to increased sales of German imports. Japanese Prime Minister Shinzo Abe has called on South Korea to comply with international law regarding the issue of wartime forced labor. At the 200th provisional session of the Diet, he mentioned South Korea at the very end of his speech, which may indicate that Seoul-Tokyo relations are falling out of favor with Abe. On the same day, Japanese Foreign Minister Motegi, in an interview with local media, hinted at possible retaliations if a South Korean court liquidates the assets of Japanese firms to compensate forced laborers. Currently, the victims are going through a legal process to auction off patent rights and corporate stakes the firms hold in South Korea. South Korea's 100th National Sports Festival kicked off today. First held back in 1920, the festival has grown into the country's biggest annual sports competition. Kan Young-hoo went to check it out.
Last month, the torch for the 100th National Sports Festival was lit on South Korea's easternmost islets of Dokdo. The torch has been traveling around the nation since then, with a record 1,100 torchbearers taking part, carrying the torch a combined distance of 2,019 kilometers.
The National Sports Festival is our biggest and has the most historic meaning. I hope it can continue to grow for the next 100 years, and I hope this year's event can possibly contribute to Seoul's joint bid with Pyongyang for the 2032 Summer Olympics.
From this Friday through next Thursday, some 30,000 athletes will be competing in a total of 47 different sports at 72 venues in Seoul and other parts of the nation. And for the first time in the history of the National Sports Festival, there is a global sports festival prepared for foreigners living in Seoul. Some 400 foreign residents from 39 countries are set to compete in 7 different sports on the sidelines of the main event. After the week-long sports festival, the 39th National Paragames will also be held from October 15th to October 19th. As the venue for the first National Sports Festival back in 1920, Seoul looks to serve as the starting point for the next century of South Korean sport by hosting the 100th National Sports Festival this year. 간영우, Arirang News.
For the first time in more than 50 years, Hong Kong's leader has used emergency powers to ban the use of masks at city protests. At a press conference on Friday, Hong Kong Chief Executive Carrie Lam said the ban on face masks would take effect from Saturday.
And I would say that we are now in rather extensive and serious public danger. The objective of this regulation is to end violence and restore order. And I believe this is now the broad consensus of Hong Kong people.
She also said that she would continue with public dialogue to find solutions to the deep-seated social problems in Hong Kong. Under the new law, those wearing masks at protests could get a jail term of up to 1 year or a fine of some 25,000 Hong Kong dollars, which is approximately $3,200. As the word of the ban spread on Friday, hundreds of people took to the streets in downtown Hong Kong, denouncing the mask ban, calling it the suppression of their freedom. Hundreds of bullying cases have been filed since South Korea adopted a new law banning workplace harassment in July. Workers, however, say the law has several loopholes that must be addressed. Yoon Jung-min reports.
2 months after a new law prohibiting workplace harassment came into effect, nearly 800 cases of bullying have been reported since then. According to the Labor Ministry at a parliamentary audit on Friday, 794 cases of harassment were seen from July to September. Nearly 45% of them involved verbal abuses, followed by unfair treatment and slandering. By sector, the majority of the reported cases were from the manufacturing sector, followed by facility management and health and service sectors. The law was originally designed to prevent and stop bullying among workers by allowing employees to file an official complaint in case of harassment. According to the law, company owners have a duty to stop harassment when workers inflict physical or psychological pain on other employees by abusing their power and authority. The Labor Ministry has been providing consultations and have tightened supervision since the implementation of the law. But many workers and experts say the abusers are not being punished adequately, as the Labor Standards Act do not stipulate clear penalty clauses. Also, those who quit their jobs due to bullying often may not be eligible for unemployment benefits under the current system. Other problems have been raised as well, such as employers being unwilling to take action when complaints are filed against them. Yoon Jung-min, Arirang News.
There has been a brown sugar rush here in Korea, with nearly every cafe offering coffees and teas infused with brown sugar. But this new trend is also raising health concerns. Our Oh Soo-young has the story.
The flavor of the season is brown sugar. Since earlier this summer, coffee and beverages infused with brown or black sugar have been popping up in cafes across the country, even inspiring brown sugar-flavored breads and snacks in convenience stores. But the brown sugar rush has experts worried that the trend is causing people to consume too much of the substance. A medium iced brown sugar beverage of 400 to 480 millilitres contains between 30 to 59 grams of sugar, compared to around 25 grams in a cup of cafe mocha. The World Health Organization says that our consumption of added sugar shouldn't go over 5 to 10% of our daily calorie intake. That amounts to 6 to 12 teaspoons. According to health authorities, those who consume more than the recommended sugar intake have a more than 40% higher chance of developing conditions like diabetes, high blood pressure, and fat around your middle.
When we chew and digest carbohydrates, they are broken down and absorbed slowly as glucose, our body's main source of energy. But sugar and brown sugar, which is very trendy right now, is absorbed quickly without the digestive process, as they're made up of monosaccharides and disaccharides. So they can raise blood sugar levels very quickly and spark various addiction, symptoms, or ill effects. Sugar is also low in nutrients, but high in calories.
With the brown sugar trend spilling over to snacks and other confectionery, experts say the public should keep their sugar intake under check, especially as the past 4 years have seen a 20 to 30% increase in the number of young people developing diabetes, twice as high as the rate of increase seen in 40 to 50-year-olds. To curb the cravings, experts say there's no other way but to cut down on snacking and flavoured drinks and save the sweet treats for a special day. 오수영, Arirang News.
Urban smart farms have been popping up all over Seoul, including the most unusual of places, namely subway stations. Our Kim Bo-kyung gives us a glimpse of a metro farm.
There is something curious happening at a Seoul metro station, where you can see an indoor vertical farm. The Seoul Metropolitan Government and Farm 8, an agriculture firm, recently opened the first metro farm in South Korea at Sangdo Station on Seoul Subway Line 7. They are promoting this metro farm as a way to effectively utilize unused spaces and carry out urban farming.
Sangdo Metro Farm is an urban smart farm which uses information and communication technology to control the farm's conditions, making it easier to grow crops.
Exotic vegetable breeds are cultivated with the help of an automated system which manages temperature, humidity, acidity, and provides them with nutrients. It also allows partial access to people passing by and a viewing window where they can look at how smart farms operate, while also providing clean air.
If we conduct smart farming in metro stations, plants can use carbon dioxide, which people breathe out, for photosynthesis, and people can breathe in the oxygen that plants produce.
There's also a facility called Auto Farm in which a robot manages the entire farming process. This container-sized indoor farm cultivates young leaves for harvest when they are fully grown. People can enjoy the vegetables that are harvested from these facilities at a cafe located right next to the farms in the form of salads and juices.
I came in here for the first time after just passing by for several days. I think it is very nice that it provides us with oxygen and fresh vegetables within a city.
Another urban smart farm has also opened at Tapsimli Station, and they will open in 3 other subway locations, including Chungjeonglo Station, within this year. The city government and Farm 8 are looking forward to creating more urban smart farms in the long term, so that people can enjoy crops at lower prices and become more aware of the latest in agricultural technology. Kim Bo-kyung, Arirang News.
While Korea is still recovering from the aftermath of Typhoon Mitag, there's a possibility of yet another typhoon approaching the country. We're seeing an unusually high frequency of typhoons lately, and our Lee Kyung-eun explains why.
The weather in September has never been this turbulent in South Korea's history. As soon as autumn began, the country was hit by a series of typhoons, which usually arrive in late summer. According to weather agency data, Korea sees an average of 2.9 typhoons each year. As far as September is concerned, there is usually 1 or 2 on very rare occasions. Only 8 times in Korea's history have there been 2 typhoons in September. But this year, that record has been broken. In the past couple of weeks, 3 typhoons have affected the Korean peninsula, with the season's 13th storm Lingling, the 17th Tapa, and the latest Mitag. It was also the first time in nearly 70 years that the country has seen 7 typhoons in a year since 1959. With the possibility of another typhoon on the way, experts are pointing to climate change as the main cause of the abnormally high typhoon occurrences.
Typhoons are generated by anticyclones in the northern Pacific region. Usually, the anticyclone expands to the peninsula during the summer and dissipates in the fall as cold air from China pushes it down. But this year, the anticyclone has remained present until early fall, paving the way for typhoons to enter the peninsula.
Climate change is not only raising the frequency of typhoon, but also their intensity. For that, experts blame global warming.
The warmer the ocean gets, the stronger the typhoon gets. It is because warm sea waters generate energy as they evaporate, and typhoons use that as fuel to strengthen. Due to global warming, the sea temperature is rising, making it optimal for more powerful typhoons.
What's worse is that autumn typhoons tend to cause more damage. As cool air and hot air from the typhoon clash, they trigger strong winds and high precipitation. Like the cases of South Korea's autumn typhoons, climate change is contributing to a higher frequency of natural disasters and threatening many lives. While the recovery efforts is critical, maybe it is time to take more fundamental action for the future. Lee Kyung-eun, Arirang News.
South Korea will host the OECD's biennial global forum on tourism next year. The country was unanimously chosen to hold next year's forum during the 104th conference of the OECD Tourism Committee in Paris. Seoul's Culture Ministry said it expects the gathering to generate economic benefits worth around $2.5 million. It added next year's forum will discuss the future of new tourism policies with 5G mobile technology and big data analytics leading the trend. 70 South Korean consumer products earned accolades from the 2019 Good Design Award hosted by Japan's Institute of Design Promotion. It received submissions from nearly 5,000 products with more than 1,400 items winning a Good Design Award. South Korea won the third most in total after Japan and China, with LG Electronics alone taking home 19 awards. Its LG signature OLED R television was chosen as one of the best 100. Samsung won 6 awards with products such as the Galaxy S10 and Note 9 smartphones. Samsung Pay users in the US can now transfer money to 47 countries. The firm reportedly teamed up with a global financial service firm to enable the service on the payment app. Money can be transferred directly into a recipient's bank account, or it can be collected from a local cash pickup point. Samsung claims the new feature is the first to offer foreign exchange in the mobile wallet of a US citizen. The tech giant says it plans to expand the service to other countries next year. South Korean tennis star Chung Hyun has made it to the quarterfinals of the Japan Open. He beat former US Open champion Marin Cilic by 2-1 in the last 16 round on Thursday. This was the first time in 3 attempts that Chung has defeated the former world number 3. Chung's quarterfinal match against 2017 Tokyo champion David Goffin is taking place as we speak. It's now time to take a look at some of Arirang's digital media content.
And today we have another episode of Koreator, where foreigners share their love for Korea.
Hey guys, we are Nugget. We are a K-pop cover group based in Sydney, Australia, and we have a total of 10 members. We came together for the Changwon K-pop World Festival in 2018, and we've been a group ever since.
So today we'll be showing you guys the process behind practicing and filming a cover. Let's go! Here is where we are practicing. We practice here every Sunday, and the whole area.
Today we will be showing you,
this is where we normally practice.
I say that already.
Oh, I'm gonna use my version.
So today is day 2, our second practice for
the song that is playing in the background, Everglow, Adios.
So yeah, we practice in public, and there are many other crews that practice here.
A lot of people practice here. Let's start practicing.
Everyone make sure your butt is out. Da, 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 da.
Goodbye, adios. Goodbye, adios.
It was hot during the day under the sun, but I hear it's going to get chilly from tonight.
For more details, let's turn to our Michelle Park at the Weather Center. Michelle.
Now, starting tomorrow, there's going to be a lot of changes in our temperatures. Now, as a cold air front moving southward is expected to arrive in the country tonight. Now, in some of the eastern regions will see rain until Saturday, while the rest of the country, including Seoul, will have a pleasant conditions with occasional clouds passing by. And the total amount of precipitation won't be heavy, though, with most of the eastern regions of Gyeonggi-do province and the western side of Gangwon-do province possibly seeing up to 20 millimeters of rain. So make sure you plan your weekend accordingly. And the morning low will be chillier than usual, cutting back a few notches. Seoul waking up to 16 degrees Celsius tomorrow. Daegu and Gyeongju kicks off to 19 and 17 degrees, respectively. There's going to be a 5-degree drop from today's reading, bringing the temperatures lower than the seasonal norms. Seoul will top out to 22 degrees, Gwangju to 21, while Jeju tops out to 22 as well. Now, pleasant conditions will continue to be in the capital's forecast, but the mercury is set to plunge further. So from now on, you'll need to wear more than just a t-shirt. Now I'll leave you with weather conditions around the world.
That will wrap it up for today's Arirang News Center. Thank you, as always, for watching.
Keep it tuned to Arirang for news in depth coming up in just a few minutes.